Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be talking about probably the worst rated Disney Pixar movie in the past decade or so. It is Strange World. Strange World was released with a budget of 135 to 180 million dollars, and what did it earn? 73.2 million dollars. That is one hell of a bad box office review that I've ever seen. It's a really sad box office numbers. And what's it rated as? Maybe it's just a really bad movie and people just didn't like it. And what's the reviews? On Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is at 66%, which is, I agree, it's a very mid-level movie. What does it say on the IMDb? On IMDb it says 5.6 out of 10. Again, I agree, it's a very mid-level movie, but it shouldn't excuse the box office numbers. I mean, what happened with this movie? Like, where did it went wrong? But you know what? That's not the point of this video. I'm going to be talking about something completely different. The box office really surprised me. Like, this is one hell of a sad box office numbers. But Disney said that this was their most watched movie on Disney Plus. But it's Disney's number, so Disney telling that it's their most watched video or movie. It's their words, and they don't really mean too much. I watched this movie and it's definitely really bland looking movie. I will just say it outright. This is not the most interesting movie that I've ever watched. The last time when I watched a Disney Pixar movie that really genuinely blew me away, that movie was Soul. And I don't really know if people think that it's the best movie, but at the time when I watched that movie, I was really blown away. Like, that movie touched me. It's one of the best movies that I've watched, man, like of all time. I wouldn't say it's the best movie that I've ever watched or just the best movie of all time, but I will say that when I watched it, I really needed that movie. So it's not that Disney Pixar is losing its touch. It definitely has its touch, but still sad to see this movie in this state. It's kind of similar to how they treated Atlantic the Lost Empire. But regardless of that, I wanted to talk about what this movie did right. And obviously, it's a big Disney movie. It has to have done something right. And you're probably going to be very surprised what it did actually right for a movie that's made by Disney, and that is handling the politics in a really subtle and amazing way that I've not seen other Disney movies handle the same subject in the same way that this movie did. Yes, politics. I think this movie handled the politics really well, and a lot of people have been talking that this movie is the most SJW left-leaning movie ever. I don't think that's true. I watched this movie, and if you watch this movie and you're telling me, you're probably lying right now. This is not the most SJW movie that I've ever watched. Far from it. Actually, there's one kid in this movie who is gay. That's about it. That is it. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. And that's the most SJW part of this movie, and he doesn't even mention his sexuality too much, or his sexuality isn't the center of his character. He's much more than a gay character in a movie, you know. This movie has really good characters, and it has a lot of diverse characters as well, but the way this movie handles those characters is really amazing. Like, how does Disney does diversity well in this movie is it makes characters diverse, but it doesn't make diversity the core part of those characters. Like, they are that kid is gay, but he doesn't constantly talk about being gay, or he doesn't say how the people who hate gays are really bad. It's just a gay kid, that's it. That's the end of the story. It isn't mentioned again. It doesn't need to be mentioned again, because if you go out in the real world, there you won't see a lot of gay people yelling at the top of world, "Hi, my name is Frank. I am gay. Love me. And if you don't love me, you are racist." Like, no, like, that's not how people talk in real world. And I'm glad that this movie didn't make this kid like that. Every character in this movie seems really capable, and every character is equally respected, and this movie doesn't stop to preach politics at every second. This movie just wants to tell a story, and that's about it. And there's definitely female characters, strong female characters as people like to call them in this movie as well. But there's like two female characters that comes to mind after watching this movie. One of them was Searcher's wife, I don't know her name, and the other was the mayor of this city with the whole hairstyle. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to bother searching her name, but she's a strong character. She's portrayed as a strong character, but it makes sense why she's strong. She trained her whole life to be an explorer with the Jägerklade, to go out and explore and find something useful for to bring back to their world. So it makes sense why she's strong. And the searcher's wife, who is flies around a plane, she's not shown to be doing anything physically demanding in this movie, but she can fly a plane really well, and it's been established before that on her farm she flies the plane all the time. So it makes sense why she is really good at flying the plane. That's it. And just because these women are capable doesn't mean that the male characters in this movie are weak by default. No, far from it. Every single character in this movie is capable. Searcher is, just because his wife is strong and competent doesn't mean that Searcher is weak, pathetic loser of a husband. He's loved, he's respected throughout the entire movie. And I think this movie handles men really well. And let's talk about other movies where men are kind of mishandled, and those movies would be, there are a lot of movies, but to name a few movies, it would be Doctor Strange 2, Ghostbusters, Black Widow, She-Hulk, Star Wars. And I think, in my opinion, the worst offender of this was Loki, the show that I watched, and then after watching that I stopped watching any content made by Marvel until I started to review movies and I started to watch them again. But it was Loki. I watched Loki and I was like, I don't care about the MCU anymore. It is dead to me and I don't want to watch anything made by MCU again. Aside from many Marvel blockbuster movies like Spider-Man No Way Home and Thor Love and Thunder, I didn't really watch much of anything else. But it was Loki. Loki was really mishandled in his show. Let's just get a reminder of how he was treated in his own show. He gets punched in the first episode by an unknown character that we don't even know about, and that character is unimportant, just a low level guard, and she punches Loki and immediately all the threat that Loki possessed is just gone. Like, he's just a prisoner now immediately. Like, he loses all his charisma in that first moment in the first episode when he gets punched. That was the start of his misery. The entire show was about him, but it very quickly becomes about his female counterpart, and he constantly tells his own female counterpart how Sylvie is better than Loki, and he constantly reminds the audience how she's better version of Loki just because she's a woman. And I think the worst scene has to be when Loki gets kicked in the balls. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times. It is unbearable to watch. It was humiliating for him as a character, and you have made him out to be a joke. Why am I even wasting my time watching this show? And a lot of people can say that there's no need to be mad. I mean, it's just a joke. I mean, it's not a joke. You won't see this kind of humor used on women in the Marvel show, only for men. Like, why are there these double standards? So yeah, we just looked at how men are treated in the other movies. We only in particular talked about Loki, but we can't really talk about all the shows because then this video will be really long, and I think this video is already really long. So let's talk about this movie and how this movie handles men. There are 3 men in this movie: Jägerklade, Searcherklade, and Ethan Clade. At least they are the 3 main characters in this show, 3 main men in this show that have to appear over and over again throughout the entire story. Jägerklade I want to talk about in particular because he is the brawny, strong, typically strong man who goes out and explores the jungles alone. He's like a really typically male idealized version of a strong guy. He's big, brawny, big muscle guy who can do anything, do whatever he wants. And he's not made out to be a toxic guy. No one says that his strength is toxic. He's not made to look like a fool in this movie. He's not made to look like an idiot and get stomped on by stronger female characters. Instead, they need him. His strength is needed in this movie. He is needed in this movie, and he is respected for his strength in this movie. And is that too much to ask from film writers and script writers to write a good, strong male characters? This guy is not even the main character of this show. So I really like how they handled Jagger Glade, and they did not really stomp on his character. And just because he's stereotypically a strong male character, they didn't really mishandle him. And he's not made to look like an idiot, just like in any other popular Netflix or a Marvel show nowadays, where he would normally be called a toxic male character. The researcher Glade who found the electric plant thing, and he uses that to save his entire country or a city, more like it, and he became the hero of the entire city, and now he's a farmer, and he's not like his father. He's not strong, he's not made to be an explorer, he doesn't want to be an explorer, but that doesn't mean that he's not respected. His view, his point of view, and his expertise and is respected in this show. He is respected as a character, and his experience and his opinions are respected. And then there is Ethan Glade, who is Searcher Glade's son, Jaeger Glade's grandson, and Ethan is the one who is gay, and it's fine. Like, who cares what this character's sexuality is? And if this was any other typical Netflix show or a Marvel show, being gay would be the core of his character, but it's not. He's much more than being, gay. He's a teenager. He wants to go out. He wants to explore this world. He doesn't want to be his father. Like, he doesn't want to be a farmer like his father, and he probably wants to be a lot more like his grandfather. And he has ambitions. He has his own goals, and that's what makes him a new and special character. Not just because he doesn't exist to be gay in this movie. He exists because he has ambitions, and that makes him humane. He has hopes, ambitions, and he wants to do something, and being gay is not the core of his character, and I love that. And I love when people in the LGBTQ community are represented, and they are not just represented by their sexuality and their race. They are represented by who they are as a character, not just by what their sexuality and their race is. And this movie does a great job of handling that. So if you watch this movie and you want to make notes on how to write good characters, you have to think about that you're not just representing women or gays or any of the member of the LGBTQ community. You are representing straight people as well, and you have to represent them well, just like any other race or sexuality or a member of the LGBTQ community. When you make characters, you have to treat them with respect. You cannot make them to be hateable, and because if you make a character that's supposed to be bad just because they are white or straight, then obviously people are not going to like that kind of movie. They're not going to like you as a writer, and that goes without saying. When you hate on someone, they're going to hate back at you, and when you do that, it's like you want a reaction, and that says a lot more about you than it does about the audience. And the other thing that you can learn from this movie, which I've probably mentioned before but I'll say it again, is when you're making characters, don't make their sexuality or their race to be the main core of their characters, because when you do that, it's like you're a chef in a restaurant, and instead of making a really amazing, beautiful and delicious dish, you just pick the color of a plate and then you present it, and then you're surprised why the customer is mad at you because you didn't really cook anything, you didn't really give people anything to consume, you just picked a plate. So when people choose the sexuality and the race of a character to be the core of their personality, then obviously people will see through the shallow character that you've made, a character that doesn't even have any personality, whose only personality is to be gay or a member of the LGBTQ community. And that's sad because you're not helping them, you're not helping anyone. Because think about when you're making a straight character, you don't think that being straight is their entire personality. No, you think about what their ambitions, their story, their past, their trauma, their goals, what they want to be, where they want to be, and that's what you need to do with every character. You cannot make a character and say that they are gay and call it a good work. That's the bare minimum that you've done, and it's not good enough. You need to do more than that for your characters. And with that said, I think I've really went on a tangent with this video. I've been ranting, but I guess I had a lot to say when it came to this movie, and for now that's all I've got. And if there's another movie or something, I'll definitely make a review about that, and I'll see you guys next time. And for now, it's a goodbye.